Welcome to the Mucked Up My Self-Care podcast.
I'm Jill from New York.
And I'm Linda from Tasmania.
We are two moms from opposite sides of the world who are living, demonstrating, and helping moms across the world build their self-care asset bank.
Ready to dive in? Messy, interrupted, imperfect, and most of all mucked up. Let's get going. We're back. Ah.
Yeah.
Oh dear. You've just been battling, wanting ice cream for breakfast, icapole for breakfast. Of course. Oh dear.
Oreos or ice pops, that's the usual, but
oh my gosh. Wow. No, we don't have that challenge at the moment, but it's also winter, so they're quite happy to have their Wheat Bix and everything else, so we will see. Anyway, let's get into some highs and lows.
Linda, do you want to start us off?
Sure, I will. So I think let's start with a high this time. So high for me would be, I think, just getting through some rock bottom stuff. You know, those moments where everything unravels, everything comes to a head, and you feel like you're just in the lows of lows and a bit broken. Just those moments. And then you find that often they are the periods of growth as well. They're the ones where you have that moment, and then you would come out the other side, you're like, oh, right, I see. I understand in hindsight. So, yes, just getting through sometimes some of that stuff. So it's been okay, just a journey. I've done it before, I'll do it again.
Yeah. And
we just keep on mucking up all the time.
Better.
Yes. So that's sort of a high and a low wrapped into one, really, because it wasn't exactly pleasant while going through it, but I also got through it. So, yeah, 2 for 1. What about for you?
Okay, let's see. My high is I did a book signing at church the other day, which was kind of cool. It wasn't anything special, very low key. It was just like we made an announcement after church and I had a couple of books for sale. But it was helpful because, you know, my church family is probably one of my biggest supporters in my life of everything I do. And most of them don't have internet at home. So they weren't ever going to be able to buy the book themselves. So it was better that I brought it in and they were able to get it directly from me. And they all got the book signed. So it was very special to have those that did get the book available. But what I loved about it was one of the women who did buy it on her own, actually, after she read it, she did say, she's like, I didn't have a need for this book, but I donated it to my gynecology office and allowed them to then have the book for reading in their waiting room. And I thought that was so special.
Amazing. Oh my gosh.
To do that. So
yep.
Which I think inspired many of the other women in the church then to come and buy their own. And like, oh, I'm going to donate to my library. And then my daughter-in-law and this person and that person, like, this is what the purpose of the book was for. So it just felt so good to do that in the moment. Very exciting. My low is, I think it's just summer planning. The craziness of all this. However, this week will be better. And then I realized, oh my God, in 2 weeks it's going to be crazy again.
Just no let up, is there? It's just like, oh my gosh.
It's just not. And I'm like, thank God I have this sticky note time planner that is going to help me through it every week.
Yes, indeed. I'm lost without it. So, yeah. Even though still to this day I get ambitious, and then still to this day I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Yeah. It's very easy to place ourselves into that category of, yes, I
Uh,
think I'm broken, which brings us into what we're essentially talking about today. When our
yeah,
self-care is broken and we have hit that rock bottom, if you like, or maybe stuck there and can't
yeah,
get our head out and stuck in our head and maybe struck with a heap of emotion, hormones, rage, like P&D, like life, overwhelm, summer holidays, like there's so many moments where we just feel like it's broken. We
yeah,
try and it doesn't work. We try again and it feels like it flops or it hasn't even made a dent in what we need. What are some of your experiences there? She
I
was
think
like, "Oh, how long have you got?"
yeah. The thing that's bothering me lately is that, we have this podcast. We talk about self care and we talk about our top five and the things that we're doing and our highs and our lows. And I'm like, why am I struggling to fit in or to remember, not even to fit it in? Why am I struggling to remember me and that I need some self care? And I keep talking about how I have no problem sharing self care with Declan, which I really don't, because I really do. Like, that's part of my definition is when I'm finding joy with Declan, I am filling my cup back up. Yes, it's energy draining, but I'm also like now really forgetting about myself. And that's my biggest struggle right now is the forgetting. And I almost beat myself up about it because we're sitting here talking about it every week. And I'm like, why can't I just do this myself now? Um, but
Yeah,
our last necessity, I'm like, okay, next week. Okay, next week.
and it's so easy to beat yourself up about it.
Yeah, it is.
And for us, I guess the honest part of it is feel really hypocritical
Yeah,
of, "Whoa, who am I to talk on this podcast about this stuff and then not blah, 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 blah." And that's in the head
yeah.
stuff.
And one thing I'm so grateful for is that both you and I, Linda, we find this time that we do get to record as part of our
Yeah.
self care.
Mhm.
And I think now that the village is up and going, I'll be able to also include that as some of my self care as well. These monthly gatherings with other moms, and that's already been scheduled in. I have that. Like, it's a non negotiable at this point. Podcast recording, village meeting. Like, what other non negotiables can I fit in that are going to be that self care for me? And maybe that's just what I need to do. Like, I have date night and my husband has his night out. Maybe I do need to go ahead and put on the calendar that is a non negotiable for
Mhm.
a little bit of self care time with Jill.
Mm. Yeah. So if you had it on the calendar and then couldn't commit or found that once it did come round to the calendar, you were like, "Oh, no, I'm too tired. Ow, get stuffed. Ow." Tell me about what that does. Because
But
I'm putting my hand up and I'm like,
yeah,
behind the scenes of the podcast. Here we are.
you know, Linda, you've been really good with going to the gym
Mm, mhm.
and staying consistent with that. So you have that on your calendar. You might Tetris it around if things come up.
Oh, yeah, it changes every week. Sometimes I go to a 6 a.m., sometimes I go to a 6 p.m., sometimes I go to a lunch, sometimes I
Yeah.
like
And during the school year, before summer was
mm,
over, I was doing my breakfast meetings weekly for myself with business and what we've been suggested to do with sticky note time and that planning time that we have each week. And that was
mm,
really consistent and good for me. But once school started, I stopped. I can't bring Declan on those meetings. I mean, I could if he was actually attentive or took care of himself at the meeting, but he doesn't. I can't include him yet. And like, okay, what's the plan for the week? So I don't have that right now. And that's what I think is
mm.
probably missing. And it was consistent, but it also needed to be without anybody else around. So I think it's now
So there
just,
were conditions to your self-care?
yeah. So now it's just going to be like, okay, is an evening my better option then, where I can go out to a coffee shop and go do it? May not be breakfast, but might be dessert someplace now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it gets on the calendar and I'm not feeling it, it might just need to be Tetris. But I think I could commit to it. So it might need to be a practice again for, my off season times. Like I had to plan out for the whole summer.
Yeah. But okay, so I've got my season 2 of the podcast coming up.
Yes.
And I can feel myself getting into plan mode. I am in plan mode. I've got things mapped out, but I can also feel myself in this zone sometimes of like, oh, I'll just create a heap of folders under each person and like have it all like all lovely and organized, which instead of actually
Doing the work.
doing this or doing the self-care maybe, or the because at the moment I'm finishing recording, so I'm not to the stage of writing yet because I'm doing it differently this time. So I've noticed the uncomfortable, broken feeling because it's different and because it's change. And because so it is helpful sometimes to plan, but I think we can also overplan. And that can, for me, in my experience, that can also break things because you just feel like you're doing something.
Yeah, you're
Feel
distracting
like
yourself with busyness instead of with things that are going to make momentum for you. So it's taking that
or
break.
going to bed, like going to bed early, or just
taking the break and going to sleep, or
oh.
going to do what's needed versus making 17,000 folders and organize in preparation to organize everything. I mean, those need to be done, but where are we going to fit them in?
Yep. And sometimes in the past as well, I've done all those organizing of folders and then not use the folders. And anyway. So I think one of the times that I feel like my self-care, and I think perhaps for you too, when it does get broken is when it's over planned or overthought or over analyzed or over anticipated. Would that be a fair assumption, or not even assumption, but just a fair comment?
Yeah. For me, it's not. For me, it's letting my calendar tell me what I'm doing instead of me telling my calendar what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I know that's so silly saying it out loud sometimes, but like I will plan my calendar where there is no white space. I'm like, we're going to try and fit all of this in on Monday. And no overflow onto Tuesday, and that's where I get it messed up big time. And then I get so much more stress out of the day because I have to get all of these things done to realize it could have really waited for the rest of the week too. And
now you're exhausted on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yeah.
or playing catch up the whole time.
So if I don't get to grocery shopping today, it's okay. Maybe it's tonight, and maybe it's tomorrow morning. It's gonna be okay. But the overdoing things, I think, can set us up for broken pieces for sure. Especially when we do put a lot of expectation onto things, and I don't think I'll always take this shift, but that's what it is in thinking of expectations. I'm not lowering my expectations or lessening them, but I'm just shifting my expectations into what I can accomplish and or I can realistically manage and handle for the day, especially with what is going on around me.
Yeah. And I think part of what I would like to recognize for the journey we've had in our self-care is when the self-care is broken, I know now that is also part of the resilience that we can build up and part of the acceptance and getting over the frustration of it didn't work the way I was meant to. I couldn't fit all those things into Monday like I wanted to. And now I'm really shirty or, that sort of thing. So for me, part of the unbreaking the broken bits is being able to accept that sometimes it just doesn't work the way you thought it would. Yeah, that's hard.
It is. When you find that self-care didn't work out for you, if it was broken in your day, do you try to do something different that will work for you for that day? Or do you move on past it and get discouraged and don't even bother again?
I think it depends on a few things. I think I might move on if I'm in a better headspace, if I'm not already feeling broken before I break the self-care. So I do find it much easier to shift the mindset that way. If I'm already broken and already feeling down, and then the self-care gets broken, it is harder to swap that out for something different or move on or not get upset or react to those emotions. What about for you?
I think I'm the same. Like if I'm not just done with the day, like giving up on everything, I will go do something that whatever I can handle in those 5 minutes instead. Like I'll pull out my mental toolkit of what are some things that I can do in this 5 minutes that will bring me just a little bit of reprieve. But if it's like, what, screw today, I'm done, I'm over it, I'm going to bed, like I'll leave it for another day.
Chuck a tantrum.
Yeah. My own adult tantrum.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Want to break something in those moments, actually. Like you literally like, sometimes. I find that very ironic. Anyway, play on words. Yeah, it's
break the self-care.
I'd love I love the idea of it not being dependent on other factors. I'm lying to myself if I say that it isn't as well. Like I am being really hypocritical, and like you said, we feel like we come and talk on this podcast about all the different things, and then here we are, still breaking, still broken, still working through a whole heap of stuff. So yeah, in theory, I'd love that other things didn't impact that self-care, or that I could just go, lovely, let's just move on. But big but.
Yeah. We can't just get up and say, all right, we're going out to go do what we want to do by ourselves to go feel better. Even if we did not have children, I still feel that would be very difficult to just get up and go do for us as entrepreneurs, as humans, as all the other things that we do. Some people might find it super easy to do that and have it set up for themselves too. But we made it work with what we got going on. Shifting our expectations, I think, helps a lot but it takes practice. A lot of practice to do that.
Yep. Yeah. And we would love to hear some ways that you're perhaps feeling like your self-care is broken or breaking your self-care. And I do like the fact that sometimes we can look back on these things and find them humorous.
And how we've grown from this. Like, what are some ways that our self-care was broken, and then what did we do about it? So if you've overcome a broken self-care bit, what did you do to do it? Like, get back on the train of self-care, and what are the little things that you do to get out of those funks and mucked up days? Because yeah, we all have them.
Not living in the clouds yet. Yeah. Yep. So all of our details will be down in the show notes. We'd love you to reach out to us. We have an email address as well, which is muckedupmyselfcare@gmail.com. And if you email us, we'd love to share some of those little ways that we've found to unbreak our broken bits and little ways to step forward and all the rest of it. So, yeah. Thank you, Jill, as always. It's always a pleasure. I've come away feeling slightly less broken. Still tired. We're still tired, but still slightly less broken. So, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I guess until next week.
We hope you can unstuck your mic. Bye.